everybody. Today is Wednesday, March 25th, and this is one of our Phil community meetings. So we're really glad to have so many folks here who are interested in Phil, who already know quite a bit about it, some who are very new to it. So just really glad to have you here. We're going to try and start doing these more regularly. It's just a time when folks who have something to share about Phil or who have questions or just have heard about it and want to come to the table, we're glad you're here with us. So I'll start out. I'm Tom Welch. I live in Chicago, but I used to be the state supervisor for languages in Kentucky many decades ago now. And that's how I came to be involved with Necessful, the kind of umbrella group of this organization. But I'm going to turn it over to my friend and colleague Michelle, and then Michelle, I'll let you maybe have
Okay,
folks.
call people out, sure.
Yeah.
So I'm Michelle Anciuaoki. I'm also a member of NACESFO, National Council of State Supervisors for Languages, and Tom and I have known each other since I started to join NACESFO when I became the state supervisor in Washington State back in 2008. And Tom and I and another friend of ours who was in NACESFO, Carl Falsgraf, whom some of you know, I think we're always the kind of people that were like, okay, let's move a little further. We can do something more. And anyway, so Phil has really filled our bucket in that way in this last few years that we've been exploring it and finding so many interesting colleagues and people around the country who are interested in kind of what this really could entail. So we're so happy you came tonight. So, Shauna, would you like to introduce yourself briefly? Oh, I shouldn't. I
Sure.
should just say I'm in Washington, Seattle, Washington's my home, but I'm mostly down in Jacksonville, Florida, taking care of grandchildren.
Hi, I'm Shauna Polson. I'm an instructional coordinator in St. Vrain Valley School District. I have the privilege of working with Lulu, and we are about to get Phil going in our district. And I believe we are going to be the first in Colorado. So very excited and looking forward to learning from all of you.
Great. We'll just go to Lulu so that she can introduce herself too.
Hi, I'm Lulu from Colorado, also a Necessful member for Colorado, and super excited to jump on this adventure. Yeah, Shauna's been instrumental with her leadership and leading it for Colorado.
Great. And we're going to hear a little bit more about them in just a moment. Renata, please.
So I'm in Reykjavik. I'm in Iceland. It's very late here, but I met Tom through Joy Peaton, who is at the community-based coalition in the US, and I do similar work here. And we know each other through the Heritage Language Global Think Tank as well, which is more of a global platform. And I know Joy was very interested in Tom's knowledge about Phil, and so we both kind of are exploring.
Yeah.
Nice
And we're
to
not
meet
Yeah,
really
you.
glad to have you here. I know it's
Yeah,
it's
thank you.
11:30. Is that it?
Yeah, yes,
Almost
it is.
midnight
Yeah.
for you? Yeah. So
that's the
thank you
hard
for
thing. No,
joining
no
us.
perfect time.
No.
James, how about you?
Hello everyone. I'm James Gracie. It's a nice 4:30 p.m. for me. I was introduced to Phil lightly by Carl Farsgraf. We are working together to align. So I work at the Japanese Immersion High School wing in Eugene,
Wonderful.
Oregon, and Carl and I are working together to align the secondary with the elementary because up until now there hasn't been really good communication. And then he heard about issues I've been having with trying to adapt current language learning methodologies with my unique problems I have with teaching complicated stuff in Japanese. And so he's like, "Hey, you should jump in and check this Phil thing out." And so that's why I'm here.
Well,
Thank you
that's
for having me.
fantastic. And definitely interested in following up with you because we have similar issues with Japanese dual language immersion, Chinese to some degree too, in Seattle schools, which is one of the things that I worked on. Great. Barbie.
Hello, I'm Barbie Chisholm. I'm the director of core curriculum for middle schools in Indian Prairie, which is in Aurora, Illinois. I recently learned about Phil, I think 2 weeks ago, when I attended the Central States Conference, and it seemed like it possibly could be something that would help us preserve and even perhaps expand our world language program when right now we're hitting some real barriers where if we don't come up with some innovative solutions, we may have to start cutting. So I'm really excited to learn more about this and determine whether or not something that we can make work.
Good.
Well, let's hope so. Sharon and I were just at Language Advocacy Days, so I'm so glad to see you again.
Hi, I'm Sharon Shinikariello. I retired in 2017 from the University of Richmond, where for about 10 years I ran a program called the Self-Directed Language Acquisition Program, which we developed without very much going on outside that was like that. But in advocacy, I started doing advocacy work when I retired. And when we did advocacy, I would talk to my colleagues, particularly in the K through 12 world, and they would say, we really need to expand our offerings, but there's not enough critical mass, and we can't get teachers out in the rural areas, and we have all sorts of problems. And so we were looking for ways to expand what I had been doing at the college level at the K through 12, and then I heard about Phil. So we're just getting kind of organized, maybe, but we need to look and see what the state needs to approve before, this kind of how we can schedule that and what we can do. But that's why when I talk to Michelle, we really want to see about this. And
Great.
so,
Yeah, I think a lot of us retired folks, this really gives us a new purpose in life. So let's see, Russ, you go from the University of Washington.
Yes, hi everybody. So I'm at the University of Washington, the Language Learning Center and Department of Linguistics, and just finished our second quarter of a Phil pilot we're doing this year, and we'll be starting our third quarter next year. We had around, I think, 8 students last quarter and 3 the previous quarter, and yeah, so far learning a lot, been fun. So I've been really appreciative of the support of this group and everyone else. Nice to meet you.
Thanks so much for coming, Russ, and we'll be talking more with you and writing up more about that too. Ronald, whom we met at the ACTFL conference this year.
Yeah, hi, my name is Ron Ramirez. I'm in Las Vegas on a bus right now, and I do a version of Skill for elementary school.
Yeah.
So we're really excited to have somebody interested in the elementary level too. Thanks for coming tonight. Did you want to add something, Tom?
No, just how glad we are to know that somebody's trying to do some innovative things with language at the elementary level. So good to have you with us, Ronald.
And Emily Lamb, good to see you, colleague.
Yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is Emily Lam and I work as the educational specialist for the World Languages program here at the Hawaii State Department of Education. Thank you for the invitation to join this meeting. A few months ago, I believe, I met with Michelle and Tom to share an idea that we had about offering a Phil-like professional development approach for our language teachers. So yeah, it was really helpful being able to, pick Michelle and Tom's brains. And I'm happy to share that we have submitted the course and it has been approved. So we are going to be offering that course for our language teachers starting this summer.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wonderful that, to be able to be working in an environment where we're thinking of ourselves as lifelong language learners, not just students like in high school or something, but, the teachers themselves are, many of us, we are lifelong learners of the languages that we might be teaching. Jessica, I don't know if you're able to talk.
She was just coming from another. Oh, here she comes.
Hi there. Sorry to join late, and I'm driving. I'll join you on normal Zoom soon, but I'm so happy to be here. Good friend of Tom's and Michelle's, and I'm piloting a Phil course at a high school in New Haven Public Schools this coming year, and it's all set to go. We met with counselors and the world language teachers at the school today, and we're ready to roll. We're so excited. Thanks for having us.
Oh, thanks so much. That's great news. Let's see. We have Martine, Sherry, Maurice, and Natalia. I'm not sure if you're able to talk, but if you are, one of you can just, I'll say your name, and then if you can unmute, just introduce yourself briefly. Martine?
Hi, everyone. I don't know if you can hear. Can you hear me? I'm in the
We can
public
hear
Yes.
you, yeah.
space. All right. My name is Martine Hagland. I am the principal on special assignment at Rochester Public Schools, looking into ASL implementation with Natalia and looking into Phil as well for our world language program. I've invited Maurice to come along for Haitian Creole. And so I'm really excited to be in this meeting tonight.
Thank you. And we had a wonderful conversation with them about I don't know, a week, two ago. It was pretty recently. I'm
Yeah.
Maurice or Natalia. Are either of you able to introduce yourselves? Oh, there you are, Natalia.
Hi everyone, Natalia Benjamin, Director of Multilingual Learning for Rochester Public Schools. And like Martine said, just looking at options, we have over 80 languages in our schools. And when we think of the skills of biliteracy and the opportunities that our students have to work on their own languages, they're very far and few in between. And so we know that our students have a range of interest in many, many languages that we could never run full classes for. And so feel is a way that I think is an opportunity, right, for students who are interested in very specific languages to have access to that. And so just thinking of what we can do at a time where budget cuts and all of that is all over the place. Thinking of how we can strategically begin to do that work so that it gets approved, so that it in the future it could be a class that our students could take. So yeah.
Sounds exciting. Thank you. Maurice, are you able to unmute? Yes.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Maurice Austin. Thanks again for inviting me. It was a pleasure talking to you too, Michelle and Tom, the last time. I was introduced to Phil by Martine, um, that probably 3 weeks ago. And but I told her about, because we both Haitian, so I was telling her about my take of putting the Haitian Creole in my school, even though we don't have a lot of students in my school though that speak Haitian Creole. But I think New York is a very good possibility. I live in New York, by the way. I'm sorry, not saying that at first. I live in New York, and New York has a very good population of Haitian, especially in the schools. And that's something that I'm looking into. Firstly, to introduce it to my school at first. I teach foreign language for more than 20 years, and then I think Phil, after I spoke to Martine, will be something very interesting for my school as well before I can talk to anybody else about it. So thank you again for inviting me. So I'm here to learn.
Great. And Sherry? Maybe she can't unmute. That's fine, no problem. I'm just going to grab our agenda here, which is uh, we're kind of more fluid than usually big agendas and things like that. But tonight, Tom wanted to start with kind of here's where Phil is, like where is it happening in Delaware and so on, and here's where it's coming. The University of Washington Phil at higher ed example is happening already, as Russ mentioned. But why don't you start, Tom, by just giving us a little bit of synopsis where Phil is and where it's coming.
Sure. These are very exciting times for us. We now are well established in Del Mar High School in Delaware, where our colleague Ryan Allen he's now in his third section of Phil. He's on a block schedule. He had one class last year, and now he's in his second semester this year, having great results. We depend a lot on him to give us that bird's eye view of what it's like on the ground. That's maybe a mixed metaphor there, sorry. Um, but
Bird's eye
it's
view on the
going
ground.
yeah, it's going extremely well. What's been interesting for me that is very consistent with the Phil approach is to see the changes that he's made from his first time helping kids learn via Phil to this semester. And it's been a matter of continuous improvement. And that's something that we really appreciate about the way Ryan has handled it, and that we also encourage, because we're very careful to say that this is an approach and not a model. So what may work really well for Ryan may not work really well someplace else. And instead, you find you need to make some various changes. So right now, we have there in Delmar a well-established program, but now we have a number of programs that are already in the nascent stage, like Russ's. And then we also have many which are just ready to come on board. One just, I guess, in the next few weeks with Lulu and Shauna and the pilot of a pilot. And I'll have them talk about that in a moment. And then we have a couple of other higher ed examples. University of Michigan has just got, I
Michigan
mean,
State, I
Michigan
think it is.
State, gosh, I don't want to make that mistake. Michigan State has just gotten approval to begin offering. We also have at the University of Nebraska Kearney a very interesting approach where they are using Phil. This sounds a little strange at first. They are using Phil to
They're going to use
replace
Phil, right?
they're going to replace their 100 and 200 level beginning language courses in French and Spanish and instead open it up for Phil, where some students may still want to take French or Spanish, but then also the ability for them to take other languages. I can tell you more about the rationale behind that, but they have now a 3-year grant to get that up and running, so that's very good news. And then around the country, various other high schools where we have things going and about to kick off. Jessica mentioned there in her district in Connecticut. And then also, I want to take time now for Lulu to talk with Shauna about the very exciting things that they have going in a very, very innovative and wonderful district in Colorado. So, Lulu, why don't I turn it over to you to talk both about what's coming next fall with you, and then also we have Lulu doing the pilot, which is kind of fun. So I'll let you and Shauna talk about those initiatives as well. And Jessica may be very interested in what you're doing as well.
Yeah, well, first I'd like to introduce Shauna Polson, our world language coordinator for St. Vrain Valley School District, because her leadership has been just instrumental because I work for student services, so different departments. So she is my boss. So I'll let her also introduce what we're doing. We also work with another amazing team at the Innovation Center. So we're not piloting it in a school yet. It's Innovation Center is more of a program, and they just got so there were no barriers when I brought the idea of Phil to our district and to the Innovation Center. It was just yeah, we do that already. We do they're looking at it more of language certification for a student, and it's classes that they already offer. So they certify students in many different areas like aerospace, working with Salesforce and getting certified with that. So this was just another certification at that level. So credit is really easy. They're already there in that thinking. So it was very, very easy to do that. To the approach, we want to pilot with the pilot of students. We have an organization called Sister Cities Longmont, and we have these partnerships where students do an exchange in Japan as well as Mexico. And we asked the students going to Japan if any of them would be interested in piloting the Phil approach with our district. And we had 3 students that said absolutely yes. And so we're piloting the approach and offering credit. So we're offering 0.25 credit since it's late in the semester and it's pretty much a quarter of seat time. But they will be learning Japanese before they go to their Japan trip. And so we're piloting that approach, piloting the resources that we have and have developed. And so our district is very specific about what resources we can use just because of student safety, student privacy, what would be beneficial, what's innovative to use anyway with Phil. So that is also working with another department, our curriculum and technology department. So lots of hands working to make this one section of Phil offered in August. So I'll be teaching a first hour block at the Innovation Center with I haven't even updated Shauna yet. We have a fourth student, so we have four students already enrolled in the first section. So we're super excited about it. And I'll let Shauna, if you want to fill in any of the gaps that I didn't talk about.
Sure. Well, the exciting thing is I actually got to present to our counselors this morning. So all the counselors in the district that included elementary and middle and high school. So they are now aware of what Phil is. And my ask for them was we are looking for a specific type of student who would be successful in an interdependent environment. With this approach, we really do want a self-starter. We want a motivated student. And the explanation, I mean, we used a lot of the resources that you all provided in explaining what Phil is. We only offer Spanish, French, and Mandarin currently in the district. So we have students who wanted to take other languages and they just haven't had the opportunity. And this is really opening up doors. And I actually had two counselors reach out to me today, and we might have some German happening in fall, in addition to Chinese and Japanese. So it's really exciting. I haven't necessarily been able to talk to all of our world language teachers about it. It will be an interesting conversation because I'm sure from experience, there is misconceptions about what it is, the fear that their job may be going away, which it's not. This is just another opportunity for our students. We are really trying to get as many students to graduate with the seal of biliteracy as possible. And every year we're hoping to increase a little bit. But this, I think with Phil, we will be able to increase those numbers in other languages. One of the things that I'm excited about as well is the students who have home languages that we don't offer in the district. So for them to be able to develop their skills and perhaps become, move into the advanced, intermediate, high advanced, and be able to, even one of the things we're talking about is creating an interpretation course. And so those students would be amazing candidates for that. We did talk about how, yeah, they would take STAMP and they would have to show advanced low proficiency, but we're really setting them up with, if they do participate in Phil, it seems like this is the opportunity for them that they haven't had so far. And we'll see what happens. So far, we don't have any students in that boat, but I think we will. I think the more we get the word out, it's just going to grow and grow. The goal is eventually to offer Phil at multiple high schools to fill that need. As I know with the Phil, but Lulu I'm so happy that she's on board to facilitate our first Phil pilot because we're going to try to work out the kinks. We have a lot of logistics to figure out. But yeah, having the support of the Innovation Center is so important because our district, I feel like, it embraces innovation so much. And this is just one way, an additional way that we can do that with world language. And this has been really exciting. And I've been exploring different tools and we have a lot to do, but it is exciting work.
Well, Shauna, I hope you know that besides your innovation center and the folks there, you can also depend on this group for support. The neural network group will do everything we can to help you be successful. There are a couple of things from your comments that I'd really like to enlarge upon a bit because they're so important. One is making sure the right students are in Phil because the last thing we want is for Phil to ever be perceived as some sort of a dumping ground, if you will, where if kids have a hole in their schedule or they need another credit, oh, just put them in Phil because that's, kids are doing their own thing. Nothing could be farther from the truth. And Phil is not for every student. As you said, what you're really looking for are kids who are self starters. And we would never suggest that you should select students according to their GPA, but instead look at those qualities that would make them likely candidates to succeed in an independent or interdependent environment. And then the second thing that I wanted to jump on was your comment about the teachers and working with the other teachers to make sure that they understand. That's really critical because that could be pivotal in the success or failure as they're talking with their colleagues and with their students about Phil. And just like Phil is not for every student, I would also maintain that Phil is not for every language teacher. And that's not a value judgment. That's more a just a matter of partly personality, because some people are just really much more comfortable operating within very carefully defined constraints, whereas other people are much more likely to thrive when they have other opportunities open to them. And,
Mhm.
I've got two daughters. My first one, she was just tell me what to do and I'll do it, and I'll do it very well. She wanted that kind of structure. My younger daughter would have been a perfect Phil candidate who has been very successful now building a career that had nothing to do with anything that was in school. So, yeah, it's those are both very important elements that you've brought up, and I'm really glad you did.
Tom, I would also add that it's not for every system either. I feel like that there's a thinking that has to go into it. And I do want to address one question in the comments that said, what type of certifications do students receive? They don't receive a certification, they receive credit. It'll be on their transcript. Phil is more of a holder in their schedule, in their high school schedule. And then me as the language facilitator will look at their stamp proficiency and honor credit according to their proficiency as well as their seat time. And that's a different way of thinking because most systems are stuck on that seat time for kids instead of, oh, this kid is flourishing with their proficiency level. They're at an intermediate low. So that's a different type of credit. So we honor credit with that certification thinking, if that makes sense. So, and the Innovation Center just does that. I was just there. I mean, they just hosted the Distinguished Schools for Apple of the Americas for Apple certified schools. And one of the quotes that really came out because they're all coming together in describing the innovative systems that they do have for students and the opportunities that they do create. And I wrote down a quote and I was like, oh, this is perfect for Phil. Albert Einstein, he's like, we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. And so the idea of creating these systems that we can't have that old thinking anymore, we really do have to think different in honoring the type of student that's in front of us today.
So true. So let's take a look for a moment at kind of where we're heading next. I did include links to the description of the Phil program at the University of Washington and also at Michigan State University, which is actually a new program coming up, but we'll be sharing more information about these coming up. But what we realized is that although we have a list of contacts, all of you guys who have registered to come to these Zoom sessions, we have not created kind of a network list, a list where you can find each other. You can find people that might be a similar geographical area or higher ed, K-12, languages, and so on. And so we've created a little form that we're going to send out to you. And before I send it out, I just wanted to walk through it really quickly to see if it makes sense, if it's clear, and if there's some big thing is missing, so I could catch that before I send it out. Basically, the idea of this is that if you sign up, if you fill out this form, you are agreeing to be able to have access to the contact information. So we'll just share the Google sheet that gets generated by the form, so you can find each other. We can also help you find each other, but that way you have a list that you can access. And so basically we just want your email, your name, and so on. I included a phone number in case you want to include it. Some people don't mind getting texted and so on. State or country where you live or work, in other words, whatever is relevant for you. You can have more than one if necessary. Like in my case, my state is Washington, but I'm mostly down in Jacksonville, Florida. Educational setting, you could indicate like if you're higher ed, you could put the name of a college. You could put if you're involved in K-12, is it state level, district level? Is it a specific school? So it's not like it's just one column for each thing that gets so complicated by trying to differentiate that stuff in advance. So just kind of describe the area that you're working in or that you're interested in. And then if you're involved with any organizations at your local, state, regional, national, and so on, that might help us connect you up with some other folks as well. And then what interests you about Phil? This will help us understand what you might be prioritizing. Perhaps it's meeting the needs of special groups of students like heritage speakers, or offering a greater variety of languages, or whatever else you can describe. And then any information you'd like to share about yourself. So a lot of people, have a brief bio that you've got on a website. You could just put that link in, or if you want to copy in a paragraph from if you ever present at a conference, you probably have one of those. So that's the kind of information we're thinking of for you guys to be able to share. Do you see anything else that is either unclear or that's missing? I tell you what, I'm going to just put the link in the chat so you can take a look and oops, wrong link. And that way, if you have a chance to glance over it, it's just that if obviously it's better to catch any changes before a whole bunch of people fill it out. Okay, come on.
The only other thing I think could be helpful is if there's a space on there to kind of indicate where you are in the process with Phil.
Very good. Like Phil readiness or your stage of, yeah, good, good, good. Okay, I'll add that for sure. That's a great idea. Anything else? Okay, so I'll add that and we'll send that out then. Let's see, where did we go? Here we are. Is that, oh, sorry, I think I lost my, just a second. I'm just going to go find the agenda. Did you want to say something about the guiding principles, Tom?
Yeah. Let's do you want to pull that up or I can?
I will, yeah, just one
Okay.
second. I'm just going to grab this one again and then um, the guiding principle. Oh, before we get there, actually, this is an important one. Some people have suggested it would be nice if we just had like a standard time, like whatever, fourth Tuesday of the month or something like that, when we set these Phil community meetings. We can always do extra ones too, but just so that there's sort of a reliable schedule for them. And we were wondering if there's any particular day or time of, day of the week or time of the month or time. That's the other thing, is that we realize there's no ideal time. We've been doing these at 4 o'clock Eastern, but then sometimes that's hard for people that are, at the middle of their workday in the Pacific Northwest or the West Coast altogether. So any thoughts about dates or, again, day of the week, time of the month, time of the day?
And we might be able to send that out on a little questionnaire after
We can
after the
do that too.
webinar
That
here.
would be easy to
Yeah.
do. We can do
Yeah.
that. And in general, do you like the idea of just knowing that every fourth Tuesday or something like that is going to be a Phil night?
When
Kind of
you
helps
can
her fun.
come and ask questions or connect with other folks. So,
Okay, great. Well, we'll send out the ideas about the possibilities. So the let me go find the Phil guiding principles.
and
So go
okay,
ahead.
while you're doing that, Maurice had asked about personal email or work email, whichever you want to be contacted with. So if you want to make sure that folks just are contacting you with Phil questions with your work email, put that one, or if you would rather not be, you want that separated, that's fine too. So that's just up for you, up to you.
Yeah, if you think it's a good idea, I can put like an extra alternative email. So there'll be the first one that you put, and then which I think will probably just be picked up by however you got the email with the form that just gets filled. So if you want to I could just add another one if there's an alternative email. Sometimes people like that because you might have one for work and then one for Gmail or something like that. So maybe I'll just add that in case you want to do that. Okay,
Okay.
now principles. The concept here was that we wanted to have something that was a little, was not like a 25-page document, but something that captures kind of the main concepts of Phil, that as an approach, what really guides this work.
Yeah,
And
and let
so,
me introduce that, Michelle, by talking
yeah.
about the fact that there will be an article coming out in the next edition of The Language Educator, which is the ACTFL publication that comes out quarterly. So it'll be a couple more months, I think, since the winter one just came out a few weeks ago. But Kathy Shelton, who is the head of PD for ACTFL, had read over that, and she and I were talking at Central States, and she said, "My biggest fear is that there are just going to be a lot of places that start to throw kids in a room with a computer, and they're just going to say that they're offering a fill approach." So, what we really would like to do is to talk to you about the importance of the guiding principles. And they're divided into three parts. One set has to do with the student, one with the facilitator, and then the final one is around building the ecosystem. So, I'm going to just go back, and the first one is, in my mind, can you go back up, Michelle, to the first one? Yeah. Um,
Centering the learner,
no,
can
yeah,
you see it?
absolute respect for the individual learner. And this is where it all starts. That every learner comes in to fill where they are, not where somebody wants them to be, not where somebody thinks they should be, but it's important to respect that the learner is where they are. Perhaps it's somebody coming with a heritage language who is real strong on their speaking skills, but not very strong on their written skills. They are where they are. And our privilege and our hope with Phil is to help them see what their next steps could be and then help them get there. It's the same thing for the teachers, as I kind of mentioned before, that teachers are coming to this from where they are. And we'll do everything we can to help any of the facilitators become more and more proficient in facilitating with Phil as they go along. But that's very important. The second one is also critical because, and this is one of the biggest paradigm shifts with Phil. Phil is not about courses. Phil is not about helping kids successfully move through a course. Phil is about learner generated goals that are grounded in proficiency. So we're in place of a curriculum with a strict scope and sequence. The necessful, actful, can do statements really become the structure, the skeleton of the course upon which I just said course, didn't I? The
Well,
skeleton
it
of
is
the
a course
experience.
because it's a class
Yeah.
time, right? It's in
Um,
the schedule.
Yes, but that becomes what learners use to help guide their progression. And Ryan, once again, has been very, very helpful in watching the process that he's gone through with his students. And what he does, that some of you may end up doing as well, is he has a weekly goal sheet, for instance, that his students start out on Monday when you have a regular 5 day week. His students start out on Monday setting their goals based on the can do statements. And they also talk about what evidence they will provide by the end of the week on their progression towards those goals. Some of them may stretch over to more than one week, but it's very important, and this helps keep students on track. And also with that, and the idea of proficiency is, and I'm this is very different, but I really hope that as much as possible, you can be working towards a, excuse me, proficiency-based credit. We don't want kids to ever look at Phil as a course where they can serve their time sitting through a certain number of hours for the class and end up with a credit in Phil. It's really designed to help students increase their proficiency in the language of their choice. So those are really some of the most important things. And beyond that, we have tried to make sure that Phil incorporates what the latest research actually is saying about the learning process and how students become successful with that and how things need to be structured for that to happen. So that's why we put great emphasis on student agency in every way that that comes about. And also that includes the choice of resources. And we can talk about that. And if you like, we could have one of these topics, either identification of resources or setting up proficiency-based credentialing as kind of the theme of a Phil community gathering in the future. But we'll just kind of leave it there as a teaser for right now. But the teacher's role is very, very different. I have many dear colleagues that I respect a lot who are language teachers. Phil teachers aren't language teachers. They are teachers, facilitators who are helping in each individual learner increase their proficiency. And that's a real shift because, when I was teaching French, one of the things I loved about French 3 was that was where we did the impressionism unit, right? Well, with Phil, you give up your beloved units because you may have students who are not at all thrilled about Impressionism, and there's no reason for them to be subjected to that, if you will. Once again, this is a process. It's the facilitators grow in their understanding and their ability, just like the learners do. And finally, I think this idea of expanding the learning ecosystem is another really important one because this is interdependence. We don't ever want Phil to be something where, kids feel like they're just spending time by themselves, not interacting with any other speakers of the language, not ever interacting with other learners in their class or others in the Phil network. So there are many different ways that we'll be helping you support that concept as well. I know one idea that we've talked about, for instance, with the network idea, is that there may be some schools that are really interested, for instance, in the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So it might be that some students from Delaware and some students from Colorado and some students from Michigan State or wherever are interested in the same UN Sustainable Development Goal, but they approach it the same goal through their language at their level, and we can really take the limits off on what students are able to achieve because this is even beyond problem-based learning because or task-based teaching of language because the student is driving so much. We want as much of the Phil experience to be authentic as possible for the learner. And that means helping the learner identify what they're interested in. And I'll say one more thing as an example of that before we move on. A few weeks ago, Ryan was working with one of his students as he was filling out his weekly goal sheets. And he had something that Ryan kind of looked at, and it was about, I want to be able to identify colors in Japanese and talk briefly about colors. It was aligned with his proficiency level, but Ryan looked at that and said, "Hey, listen, it seems to me that your goal is probably not just to learn about colors." He said, "Why do you want to be able to talk about colors?" And the student said, "Well, I want to be able to talk about Minecraft in Japanese with other people that are playing Minecraft with me from Japan." And Ryan said, "Well, your goal then isn't colors. Your goal is to be able to talk with other students about Minecraft in Japanese, and colors is one of those things." And so after they talked a little bit more, the student finally said, "You mean I can do Minecraft in school?" And Ryan said, "Yeah, as long as that's what you are using to increase your proficiency, there's no reason not to." And in the same, well, and then a couple other students, a French student and a German student, were like, "We can do Minecraft." And Ryan said, "Yeah, as long as that's in line with your goal." And here again is the importance of the facilitator, because this isn't just all of a sudden kids are playing Minecraft in school, not by any means. This is the advantage of having kids fill out their goal sheet that is aligned with the can do statements, that's at the appropriate proficiency level. And then the teacher becomes this wonderful supporter of kids learning in the way that is exciting to them. I know in St. Vrain, you have so
That's
many
great.
other things going on in your innovation center. There may be kids who are working on your underwater drone project who they want to learn German to be able to talk about the engineering aspects of their underwater drones. And what better way to hook those kids on increasing their proficiency? So,
So
until I
there's a couple other sections that these guiding principles, these are kind of the guiding principles, these nine, they're not set in stone, but we do want to start getting them out and be a little more visible so that people are kind of aware of the philosophy as it's been evolving. So as they talk about it and get excited about it, they realize things like one of our assumptions is that it's voluntary participation, both for teachers and students. You can't assign a teacher, you have to teach a Phil class, or you've just not done the Phil philosophy, basically. So then there's some guidance for administrators, what it is, what it's not, Phil essentials, some brief FAQs, and here's kind of a nice graphic that kind of illustrates this idea. I like that, centering the learner and reimagining the teacher role. You see them kind of nested with each other and building the ecosystem in a larger way, because we do want students to be able to connect the language to real scenes. Anyway, we just wanted to make this visible because we are going to try to make it take it out in the world a little bit more, so that people are aware that we've been giving thought to these things. It's
Yeah.
not rigid.
And we know many students are, and I use two terms. I talk about students who are people who respond to instruction, whereas in Phil, I prefer to call them learners because they really are responsible for so much of the learning on their own. And many of those students coming from a traditional language course are really going to be fairly unfamiliar with proficiency and what it really means. But I think, Lulu, weren't you telling me that you have, I hope it was you, who have started to design a unit or a course about proficiency? Could you and Shauna just perhaps talk about that for a short time? Because I was like, oh my gosh, that's such an excellent idea that I'm sure many other Phil facilitators could use as they start out their year. Because Ryan always takes at least the first week talking about proficiency. So if you guys are getting that down to a science, let's hear about it.
Oh, Shauna's created the most amazing training and student training and slide deck for students to truly understand proficiency levels, and the can do statements. And it's going to be very activity based as well. Like we have the proficiency puzzle, but we're going to rewrite that for the student to understand so they understand the levels of proficiency. So we're probably anticipating that to be at least the first 5 or 6 classes, right, Shauna? About 5 or 6 classes.
Yeah, we want to make sure they have that foundation and really understand, especially if they're going to start setting goals around the can-do statements. They need to understand what that truly means. So, yeah, I don't know 5, but quite a few. I think it's definitely going to be a few, a few times. Yes.
Hope you'll come back and share that with us. Give us a little walkthrough. Would that be possible?
Absolutely. Yeah. We're just refining. We're meeting tomorrow to refine the slide deck, but I think we're getting there. And it's something actually that I plan to take to my world language teachers to perhaps do with their students in the future. And the goal as well is to have something for parents, because I think that is a huge part of the puzzle is parents understand that this is not a traditional grading system. This isn't a class perhaps that you took when you were in high school. It's going to look a lot different. So I think it's really important that families understand what proficiency means. So it's not a surprise once they get to the final. And it's like, oh, okay, that's how much credit they got because based on they got to the novice high, whatever that is. So that's part of it as
That's
well.
great. It's important for people to know what that is. Jessica's got her hand raised, and then I see a question also from Nata. Oh, no, sorry, I got to go down a little further. Maurice has a question. We'll go to your question in just a minute. Go ahead, Jessica.
Oh, hi. Just it's so exciting what Shauna and Lulu are working on, and I just wanted to mention that we've done some of that work in New Haven Public Schools for our teachers and students in the past, like just before Phil. And you're probably already doing this, but if you weren't, including the actual videos for the different proficiency levels, the English ones where they have the English interviews and people can actually see just a teensy example of what intermediate may sound like and an example of what novice sounds like. That's always really powerful when we use it with kids. Have you seen those videos? They're on the website. They're on YouTube.
Yes. Yeah. A neighboring district actually shared that as part of his proficiency slides. And that was something I was going to bring up to Lulu tomorrow. I think it's great for them to see it and listen to it in English. So they can maybe have that conversation. Yeah. I thank you that's a good reminder.
Yeah. And they work great as long as you make sure that you always have to keep saying to people that it has to be a 30-minute interview in order to put someone at a level. Like this is just a snippet and that you would have to hear a lot more. Like, so that we make sure we talk to the kids about that. But as long as you do that, it's very powerful for the kids to see it in English.
Yeah. Thank you, Jessica. That's the benefit of the network.
Yeah. And so Maurice's question is how can Phil get students to progress in the classroom when there's an electronic ban in New York City schools? I guess one question is the electronic ban on cell phones or on laptops or tablets or everything? Is there no technology?
Yes, it's no technology at all in the classroom. Teachers
No
use it, like
technology in the classroom.
chalkboard and
Is there no
everything.
technology in the school? I mean, do they
No,
not
there's
ever use
technology.
technology?
There's technology in the school, but that teacher use it, but not the students. Students are not allowed to bring their technology in the classroom at all.
And there's no place that students access technology during the school day. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Can they do technology at home?
Yeah, they can.
Okay, so in that situation, they might develop their plans, their goals to involve things that are much more interactive with each other, learning about proficiency, thinking about what kind of things they want to do, perhaps getting some printed materials like books or things that maybe even the teacher identified but printed for them, more conversational things. Sometimes even if they're in different languages, you can practice a kind of conversation where you're each doing your own language, but you're getting the feeling of what it feels to interact. I mean, it is one of those kind of plural linguistic things. Cultural lessons are great. One of the activities that the facilitated language study up in Wisconsin did was something where there was a time each week when people had to read something in the news from that language. Maybe it's about that country where the language is spoken or whatever, and then they're sharing those things so that you're also developing a sense of what's going on in the world. So you might orient it to activities that don't depend on sitting on a computer. But meanwhile, maybe at their home time, if it's a language, for example, that has Duolingo, maybe they do 10 or 15 minutes of just practice because that's good to get your brain in the use of practicing a language on a regular basis. But other types of things, watching movies and in the language, or searching for things at home or in the library or wherever else they're able to do it. So I think, I mean, technically, you could have just like a written textbook and use that if that's a language if that's a way of learning that works for a student and you have access to that kind of thing. So it's not like you have to use technology every day in a classroom in order to make Phil work, I would say. And Ronald,
Maurice?
would you like, go ahead,
Yeah.
Tom.
Well, I was just going to say, Maurice, once again, Phil is an approach. So if in your situation there's no technology in the school, then we're committed to helping you figure out what do you do when there's no technology allowed in the school. Ronald, you had a question, and
Yes,
we're getting near the end of the hour, and I don't want to hold
yes,
folks
indeed.
after, but
No, I just want to contribute to what Lulu and Shauna were saying because I'm the odd one here. I'm doing elementary school, and it's very different, of course, than what all of you are doing. But I think there are some insights that I have gained over the last few years that could help in building that foundational program. Because what I teach my students is how to learn. They're using Duolingo already. So what I'm doing is teaching them how to use them in a productive way so that they're actually learning and they're aware that they're actually learning. Like a lot of students want to learn Japanese, but they don't bother to learn the writing system. So I have devised ways to make sure that they can keep track of the four skills. And also the pronunciation. Like students want to learn Russian, but they don't know how to roll the R. So there are techniques that I've developed and resources that are online. One very good one from the University of British Columbia that shows you inside the mouth. So the student can see how to articulate the sound. And I literally saw a third grade student teach a grandma who was volunteering at the school. I said, Grandma, what language you want to learn? Spanish, but I don't know how to roll the R. And I said, before I said anything, the girl came in and in 20 seconds flat taught the grandma how to roll the R, and she was doing it. So there are foundational things. And by the way, Professor Woor from Oxford, he has written papers about how learning to focusing on phonics increases motivation. Because once the person knows how to roll the R or do those back throat sounds like in French and German and Arabic, they just run with it. They're like the little kid who tasted bacon for the first time and starts freaking out. That's the reaction I see with students now. I don't know how would that work. If the same reaction would be for high schoolers, but I think that's some area that I could contribute. I'd be happy to help with.
That's
thank you.
great.
That's great. Thank you.
And you're really illustrating, Ronald, the benefit, again, as Tom mentioned, the network. I mean, college people can learn from people that are teaching at elementary and vice versa. So that's an exciting thing about Phil, too, is that we don't have to divide everything up the way we always have. So I know we're here at 8:30. It sounds like from the comments that I saw that Wednesday nights tend to be better for people. Should we kind of aim for a Wednesday night? And is later in the month or earlier in the month generally better, would you say? Later? A
Just,
little later in the month?
yeah.
Okay. And is
We'll
this time okay? It's not perfect, but is it okay?
probably not great for Renata, but she may be nodding off by now. Sorry,
Okay.
Renata.
3:30.
But
Okay, yeah, 3:30 Pacific, so that would be around 6:30. So we could maybe do it a little earlier. Would 6:30 be okay for East Coast people? I know that kind of hits dinner time, but
once a month, I'll
once a month.
change my
Okay.
mind.
Maybe we'll aim for a Wednesday at 6:30 Eastern, then it's not quite so late. Um, Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. As far as things where we're going to be sharing things, these are all things we're working on. In the meantime, be sure to feel free to share them with Tom or Phil for WLS at gmail.com. And we are constantly creating more resources. There's several more things that are in the pipeline. The Substack that I publish is really focused on Phil, and so I'm trying to share anything that I can find from other people. And I would definitely love to invite any of you to be guest authors if you have a topic you'd like to write about, or we could do it jointly in some way. But to get those things out, because then at least things are out there. You can find it on the Substack for the time being. But Tom's working on a website, so we'll see where all that goes. Again, thank you, everybody. Tom, last word?
Yeah, don't hesitate to reach out to Michelle or to me about any questions generated from this evening or anything in general that you need. We're here to help. All
Great.
right.
Thanks, everybody. And we look forward to seeing you next time and anywhere else along the line. Bye.
Bye-bye.